in Toronto, am I right?
Correct. 10 a.m.
So how in the world do you manage to do what you need to do when you've got athletes all around the world in different time zones?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky, and it was interesting yesterday. Jason Brown, I'm so proud of all these athletes. Jason Brown organized sort of a group fitness session with all of the sort of the cricket team. So there was Evgenia and Junwon and Katya and some of the other kids, some of the junior and senior kids from Canada. And so they orchestrated a fitness class together. So they're all in different parts of the world. And so we're dealing with time zones, or Jason was dealing with time zones. And so they did a class. So they'll do this weekly. I do classes almost every day with various skaters. So there could be some junior kids, some novice kids, senior kids, and just making sure that they stay active. And they're doing ballet classes. They're doing the jump classes with me. They're doing some jump classes with some other coaches. My team of coaches have all rallied really well. And it's been, there's going to be a silver lining to all this, believe it or not, with the athletes. I think they're going to come out stronger on the other end.
I think it's interesting because for a lot of athletes, they're not probably used to spending, well, all of us probably aren't used to spending this much time at home. But for you as a coach and for your athletes, I can't even imagine when was the last time Yuzuru Hanyu had a chance to have a holiday.
Well, in probably the 8 years that I've been teaching him, I don't think he's ever taken a holiday. I mean, if he has any sort of downtime, it would be, well, the last 2 years he's doing some kind of recovery because he's gone through some injuries. But during his downtime, he would be off doing some shows. He does a lot of, all the shows that he will do are always in Japan. So that's his downtime. And that's kind of his time to be available and to give back to his fans. And he does a lot of shows in Japan. And that's, but that makes him happy. That's his happy way of being, having downtime. Like Javier Fernandez was completely opposite. And I tell all these kids right now that, they're all kind of freaking out that they've got this time off, and maybe the kids and the parents. And so I just kind of tell them about Javier Fernandez's schedule, where, he would finish after a world championship. Then he would take a little bit of time off, and then he would go do some shows, and then he would take probably another month off. And he was always wanting to start like August 1st was kind of a good time for him to start. So when he started with us, I kind of got him to agree. We had to negotiate this, but we started like mid-July, and
right.
Then even in August, he always had a planned 2-week vacation, like a camping trip with his parents. And so they'd go somewhere in Spain, and they'd have a trailer or a camper or something, and they would go do a 2-week camping trip. So it's kind of funny. And he always, was ready in September. Mid-September, we'd do the Japan Open, and sure, he'd be a little bit rusty, but he'd have his stuff together. And then his Grand Prix, as we all know, he did well. And, he managed. He was always pretty fit.
He made it work.
That's genetics for him, of course. No, I wouldn't recommend that to all my kids, but that's kind of what I'm using this sometimes now to say, hey, you guys, think about Javi and what he used to do and how he managed his time off. He wasn't forced to have time off, and he wasn't doing isolation like we all are.
Yeah.
But he, trust me, I think he was isolated a lot because he liked to play on his games, his PlayStation and all that stuff.
Right.
So, yeah.
So what sort of things are they doing? Well, actually, first of all, where is Yuzuru? Where in the world is he?
Well, actually, some of the top skaters have, I know with Yuzu, I try to not sort of say too much. He's really, really private. So I don't know, I'm not going to say really where he is. No, I've had some skaters who have stayed here in Toronto. Some skaters had to go back to their countries. Jason Brown had to go back. Well, it was suggested and recommended very highly for him to go back to the United States. And so he did. And he lives in Chicago, so he can drive. So he drove himself. And kind of, he's quite an obedient person. So he'll do whatever he is, told.
He'll do what he's told.
He doesn't like to go against anybody. And so he does what he's told. And it's fine. And we stay in touch with him. And he's doing some great stuff. And Evgenia is in Japan, and she's been self-isolating there, and sort of with hopes of some shows that'll be coming up in July or August. So everybody kind of has their fingers crossed for that. I don't know about that, but anyway, she's kind of ready to go if need be. And but she's been following the protocol very, very strict. And I'm proud of all the kids for really taking this seriously, and they're also kind of realizing that this is bigger than them.
Yeah.
And perhaps this is just a time for all of us to kind of reboot.
Yeah, it's funny because you're not the first person to talk about the positives that could come out of this. Other people are sort of saying this is a good chance to reset and to maybe reassess things and change things up a bit. So I guess what sort of things are you encouraging the kids, as you call them? What sort of things are you, I don't want to disrespect them, you can call them the kids, I can't. But what sort of things are you encouraging them to do? Are we talking cooking, reading, Zumba?
There's so many things that we're offering the athletes. So I'll call them athletes now, because some of them are kids though. But Jason Brown or Yusu or Kenny, they're not really kids; they're adults. We offer the jump classes, off-ice jumping classes, and so there's so we run those, and they're following some kind of routine of a program, of a set program, and we're watching for technique and just to making sure that they're not going to get hurt, and their form, and just making sure that they're working hard. We offer, and some of the kids are doing the ballet classes that we offer. Right. And then I tell some of the younger ones, some of them have new programs, so I'm like, you can walk through your programs. You can put some music on, put your long program on. You can walk through the program. You can keep the choreography fresh, and perhaps start thinking about costumes and start thinking about some kind of design and what kind of thing you might want to be, what style you want to be wearing. So let's get ahead of the game with some of these parts of it, and then they're staying fit, and and sometimes we challenge them to watch some old videos and to try to pull some cool things out that maybe Robin Cousins may have done, or Karen Magnuson, and just different things that some of our skaters in the past did some really cool things. Yeah. But a lot of these athletes really, I'm always kind of shocked that they don't know much about the history of our skating, about our sport. So
do you make sure they watch you?
No, they've all watched that. Yeah. Every once in a while they'll come into the rink and they'll have a video of Carmen on ice, or it's pretty funny.
Oh, that's good. I think also potentially it's a good time for bodies to be rested, and for little, niggles and things to be sort of let go if your body can rest. Are you finding that that's helpful? Because obviously with Yuzu, there's always been so much talk about him coming back from injury and his ankle. This must be a great chance for him.
Yes, for all of the athletes, and you said it perfectly. Just to let them get their bodies to rest, and you need to clear your head from the next project, the next program. Trying to learn a quadruple axel or a whatever. And I keep telling these athletes and telling the parents too, everything will be there when they come back. It'll take a few days, and if we stay fit, I have been working on flexibility, a lot of these guys, because it's one of those things that kind of gets pushed to the back burner. So they don't work on flexibility. So one of my challenges I put out there to all of our athletes, we're on sort of one group chat, and I said, okay, here's my challenge. And it was something that I went through as a 14-year-old. I remember doing, I had Tyler Cranston coming to watch us skate. And Tyler Cranston was an Olympic bronze medalist and was Canadian champion, and maybe about 10, 15 years ahead of me. So I was just kind of praising Tyler being in our rink. And then I skated really well, and he kind of came back afterwards and he said, okay, yeah, you can jump well, you're a good skater, but can you do the splits? And I'm like, no, I can't do the splits. He said, next time I see you, you have to do the splits. So I'm like, okay. So within like a few weeks, I could do the splits. And so I've challenged all these kids, and I know that they're all in their little mini gyms at home practicing the splits. And some of them actually sent me little, pictures, so they could actually do the splits. They would never work on the splits. I mean, they do some flexibility stuff, but they'd rather get to the double axle or the triple axle or whatever.
That's awesome. We've got a handstand challenge going in my house, so I can totally relate to it.
Yeah, they like challenges. We do art challenges and all kinds of things for them to do and to keep them active. And the parents are thrilled because it keeps them busy and keeps them thinking about the sport. And a lot of it's mental work too. So we have them working with some people for some sports psychology, and doing a lot of imagery and visualization. And I mean, that's as you know, that's a big part of it.
Is there any way, and this might sound really silly, but is there any way that you can replicate being on the ice at home? Because I don't know if you've seen, there's lots of videos on the internet of people putting dishwashing liquid on the floor and doing treadmill things in their bath. I mean, are there ways that you can kind of simulate or, being on the rink? I can't imagine it's quite difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. And I mean, I used to have slider things at home too when I was a young athlete. So it kind of like replicated speed skating, you kind of just going back and forth. And I was always a big fan of watching speed skating. So I do it with my hand behind my back and, pretend that I was a speed skater. But, and I used to do a lot of off ice jumping. So you can string a bunch of jumps together. And if you have a fair size space and a good floor, and you can string a bunch of jumps together. Kids are working on spinners. They can do full spins. They can do wheelman spins. They can do camel spins. They can with these spinners. And so all that does is just help them be aware of their axis. It helps them work on their balance. There's some merit to it, and they do the best they can. And then the rest of it's going to be imagery and visualization. And that's something that needs to be nurtured a lot.
You mentioned the quad axle. When it comes to these jumps, because you spend so much time working on these jumps, is this time costly to those jumps?
You mean being off at this right now?
Yeah, and not being able to actually do the jumps on the ice.
I think, a lot of it's, we've always, Yuzu and I have talked about with his quad axle. I mean, he has fantastic technique, and he always has. And he and I both agree that it's going to be more of a physical thing to get your body physically ready to be able to manage that torque. And so, of course, there has to be, an additional bit of height. There's going to be more distance. I mean, there's just more power all around, and you just can't turn that on. You have to acquire it. So, again, silver lining, this might be a time for the athletes to work on those parts of the body that they need to strengthen. And then, because of my biggest fear is that we all get back on the ice and everybody gets injured. I want to make sure that they show up, that they're fit, that they're trim, that they are, they've been doing their stuff, they've been doing rotational exercises, and then they're just ready to go. The only difference is we're going to be gliding.
I'm looking forward to some good music. I feel like they could really come out of this isolation, this quarantine, with some absolute flavor when it comes to music and costumes.
I hope so. And this is, I've had a lot of discussions with some athletes about music ideas, and so this is sort of a good time for that. It was hard for me at the very beginning because right after Worlds, which was supposed to be Worlds, I was going on vacation with my partner, and so we were supposed to go to India for 2 weeks, and that was my vacation. And I very rarely take more than a week off a year. And this year I was like, I'm doing it. I'm taking 2 weeks off. All the athletes will be fine. I can do this. So when Worlds was canceled and then we were all in isolation, for the first 2 weeks, I kind of went, okay, this is my vacation. And so I couldn't get my head wrapped around anything about skating or about what the athletes were doing or finding the music. I couldn't. I had to separate myself completely, even for the 2 weeks actually. So I did that, and cooked a lot and ate a lot, and just slept in way too much, and all those things. But now because now that stage is over, and now I'm kind of feel like I'm mentally kind of ready to start, or not to start, but to continue doing what I'm doing now with these, staying in touch with the athletes and trying to keep them motivated.
Yeah, it must have been a strange feeling for you and for them when Worlds was cancelled, because that was meant to be in March.
Yeah, that was hard, and it was disappointing, but I was really proud of all the athletes that we had going to the World Championships, that they got it. They totally understood what was going on in the world and how important what we're doing, how important this is, and doing the isolation, whether it's here in Toronto or in Japan or in Russia or wherever it is. And they know how important it is. So disappointing, yes. Because were they all in great shape and were they ready for Worlds? Yes. And so it's just a matter of kind of going through those steps again and just doing it again for next year. I mean, who knows when we're going to get started again next year? I mean, there's I don't know. Will we have a Grand Prix series? I don't know. Will we have national championships? We'll see. Let's hope we can get the championships in. Europeans, 4 continents, Junior Worlds, Senior Worlds. Let's hope that we can get that done January, February, March. It would be nice.
Yeah, time will tell.
It will. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one quick little shout out because I very rarely wear red.
Oh.
And I'm wearing red today because it's there was a tragedy in Canada, which probably some of your listeners will probably know about this, but Canadians were encouraged to wear red today, just in memory of those who lost their lives last week at the tragic shootings in Nova Scotia. I have a lot of really dear friends in Nova Scotia, and a lot of my great skating memories are from Halifax. So I just in memory of what those folks are going through right now is really doing my due diligence, and I'm wearing my red, and hopefully other Canadians will do the same. This is the day.
Yeah. Well, sending lots of love to you and to everyone in Canada, because it's certainly not something that we wish upon anyone.
It's terrible, and it's a terrible time, and I can only imagine the grief that these Nova Scotians, because it's such a tight community, the whole province really, and that's what's so special about Nova Scotia, and I think all Canadians and I think a lot of the international skating fans too have been to Nova Scotia too. So I think everybody's sort of feeling, and I hope everybody's feeling the love.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing about the internet these days, is that we can connect with our friends, with our colleagues. We can spread the love and share the love virtually, which is it's been really cool. I have to say, I've been really impressed with the way that not just friends and family, but people in the wider community have been connecting. I know your athletes have been, like Jason Brown, we were talking about, they've all been connecting. The cricket club family are keeping close. But do you know the wider figure skating community, are they communicating? Are they keeping in touch?
Yeah, a lot of them are. And as you know, or maybe you don't know, that Caitlin Weaver has been putting together this event. And it's Eastern Standard Time. It's from 2 together. Raising funds for the COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund for the WHO. And overwhelming people are getting together, and from Deeper Dean and Scott Hamilton and Brian Boitano and myself, and you name, and many of the current skaters, and Misha G, and it's really fantastic. So everybody has, I think they have various games, they have some performances and little chit chats, and messages. So it's we have a huge base of skating fans from all around the world.
Yeah. And
so they get to see us, and kind of it's not a cliche. We're all in this together, and So it's nice that the skating fans get to touch with us, and we get to reach out to them. And
it's amazing. So I was
Yeah.
just saying, the list of athletes you have, I mean, it's just, I mean, you listed a whole bunch of them, but you know, Merrills, the Adam Rippons, the Nathans, it's incredible. And
Yeah,
many, several from your team are going to be there. I know Jason's on the list. Who else from your team are going to be participating?
On the list. I'm not sure if Evgeny is doing it. And then a lot of ours, like Tracy Wilson's doing it, Jeffrey Buttle's doing it, David Wilson's doing it, Peter Jensen and Sandra Stark, who are our sports psychologists that I used to work with, and they're very active still with skaters and a lot of sports, women's hockey, etc. So they're doing a piece. So we're well represented from the cricket club, and I'm really proud of Caitlin Weaver to take this project and get everybody together. And she's done a really great job, and I'm looking forward to Saturday.
So that's open ice, 2:00 Eastern time. Is that right?
That is correct.
It must have been quite a to coordinate it all. But what have you thought of everyone's efforts?
I mean, this is just a testament to Caitlin and the respect that she has in the world of figure skating, and everybody kind of just jumped on. And I know that, a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, there one as well that many skaters were involved in it. And I believe it was quite successful, and Caitlin's doing in the skating community, and so everybody jumped on board, and everybody seems to be really happy to help. And this is what we can do. I mean, this is what we can do. We can stay home, and we can do things like this, because there are times, I watch the news and I see how hard, the risks that the caregivers are and people in the front line are taking for us. Yeah. You just gotta go like I need to do something. Like, do I need to go deliver food or do something? And actually, no. What we need to do is stay home. And that's what we have to do.
Spreading the love with the world's best skaters.
I feel like I'm happy to help out Caitlin Weaver with this, and enjoy. It'll be fun. It'll be a really nice time to sort of share with fans. And
a good little reunion. And we've actually got a bunch of different skate making comments on here. I think 2002 Olympic champ Alexei Yagdin said hello to you.
Alexei Yagdin, nice. He was on this last one. He was hilarious. He did the other fundraising event with skaters as well. So I saw him on that. He was great.
Awesome. It's so good. It's so good that this figure skating community is so tight. And actually, can we and have a look at some footage? Are you up for this?
Yeah, sure.
Great. This is a new feature that we've been doing, and I think it looks pretty cool. So let's start off with this one. This is Pyeongchang. You were obviously on the sidelines with Yuzu, and this is his first performance since his ankle injury. So talk me through what you guys are saying here.
Oh my gosh. It was like, kudos to Yuzu. I mean, he had been through so much. This success is because of how strong he is mentally. This was a miracle, really, for him to come back from that. It was a bad injury, and to be off the ice the amount of time that he was. But he was determined, and it was baby steps and baby steps and baby steps every day with our team to get him to that point. It was really quite remarkable. I mean, it was really incredible, as you can see from the reaction.
And I love this bit right here. You won't hear it, but I'm back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was back. It was really something. Yeah. Yeah, a big relief for him. And then he just, then he was just on some kind of cloud for the free program. You know, as we all know, the short program is like a do or die. I mean, you have to do a good short program. So, and it was good. It wasn't his absolute best, but the free program was really heartfelt and emotional, and I was so proud of him.
I guess the other thing here is that given that he was, you know, physically skating when the earthquake and the tsunami happened in 2011, and then he was able to come back and been through adversity once before and succeeded.
Yeah, you know, it's like, I mean, it's always, it's hard. It's difficult for any athlete to go through anything like this, but he was so smart to listen to all the folks around him that were trying to make him better. And you know, the biggest mistake the athletes do is that they get back on the ice, or they get back on the field, or wherever their sport is. They do it too soon, and then that's always another setback. But he was really smart, and I was really proud of him that he listened to all of his to all of the people that were, you know, all the therapists and the doctors to try to help him get better. And he listened. And it sounded like, you know, when they said you need to be completely off for two months, it was like, wow,
Yeah.
2 months, 2 months, like, you know, but, you know, and we had done it before. And I said to him, I said, you know, I saw that you were able to get yourself together in 6 weeks to a championship. And so I said, you know, when you finish your therapy and everything, we have exactly 6 weeks. So you've done it before, and we can do it again. And so I think he probably took some comfort in that. But it was hard because, you know, when he was coming back to the ice and he was taking his little baby steps, how lights out. So that was a tough one. That was a tough one for you to be watching Javier going through clean programs and clean run-throughs. And he's working on, you know, doing a double toe loop, you know. It was
little
tough.
by little.
And it was hard for me as a coach too, because I'm pushing Javi and keeping him on track at the same time cheering Yuzu for doing a double toe loop. Like it was, but I had to keep, you know, like I always did, you know, to find the balance between the two and what they need.
Do you feel like you're more of a psychologist now than ever been before?
Oh boy, there's a lot of psychology involved, but it's tough. You have like 12 skaters, and they're all different, you know, and that's the thing. I don't have like a cookie cutter way of doing things. I have to adapt to their personalities. I have to adapt to their schedules, and you know, everybody's different. So it wasn't a Monday. It wasn't a Monday to Friday or a Monday to Saturday. It was. You know, needed to have work on. This also shows, you know, separates, you know, the real true athletes, to be honest with you. So you can't spoon feed them all the way through. You let them be on their own, and if they want to take the initiative to do extra classes and to work on flexibility and do all these things, they can take my advice, but they have to do it. And I'm not there to hold their hand. So, but this is a good test.
It's also an interesting time because between every games, there's always kind of a passing of the guard. There's always new blood coming through, and someone who seems so dominant for so long could easily be knocked off that pedestal as the new crop of athletes are coming through.
There's, you know, you got to be careful, especially like someone like Yuzu, is that you have to keep looking forward. There are some great athletes coming, along the way. They're coming out of juniors, and then you've got with Yuzuru, the one to beat was Patrick Chan.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a skater. He's a he's a remarkable athlete, and so he was in his prime then. So we were like, what do we need to do to compete with him? And it was more on the second mark. It was not so much about the quads. I mean, sure, the quads are great, and when Yuzu does them, they're sensational and they're the best in the world. But it was the second mark. It was the components. It was the skating skills. All those things that Patrick Chan was excelling in, and was way, way ahead of us. So then it was, first competition. Okay, this is there's a gap, and then we work stuff, and then we go to the next competition. We've closed the gap. We closed the gap. We closed the gap until we were even, and then when we got to Olympics, we moved ahead. But that was strategic.